See, I like the attack right there. Instead of pulling it out to run down the clock.
Fans, this was a season that had so much promise. One of the preseason favorites to start the year, the Brooklyn Nets. And it all fell apart at multiple iterations during the season.
They really got swept. Oh my God. Is this what it feels like to be a Lakers fan? It's been a while. But hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Josh Comments. And today I'll be talking about the, what do I call them? The Boston Nets, the Bronx Nets, the Brooklyn Nuts. I don't know what to call them, but they're a bunch of fools. I don't even know where to start. I'm watching game one from start to finish, and it's a very competitive game going back and forth. Boston had the lead, then Brooklyn takes the lead and late in the fourth, and looks like they're gonna win the game like I knew they would. And then defensive breakdowns, and then a Jason Tatum game winner at the horn that everybody was like, did that count? What just happened? I swear, I was watching that game live, and even I couldn't believe that happened. That was just something out of a storybook. That was written by the basketball gods. Like, that just had to happen. Fine, so the Celtics escape with a game one. Games 2 through 4, Boston made sure that Brooklyn didn't just KD and Kyrie their way to a win. They played right into Boston's hands. There was no ball movement in any of the 4 games, really. The only time there was any real ball movement, any real sense of, hey, this is a basketball team, is when they kept on making the comebacks after being down 10, down 6, down 12. That's when they decided to do some ball movement and actually play like a basketball team. Then when they were up, or when it was tied, then they just go back to isolation. And I'm not even gonna act like Kelly Durant and Kyrie Irving were the only problems on this team, because their teammates are also half the problem. I mean, let me look at the roster. You have Andre Drummond and Nicholas Claxton, 2 very horrendous free throw shooters. And you have Bruce Brown, who's also a space hoarder. He takes away space from KD and Kyrie. All you really have as shooters is Seth and Dragic, and Patty Mills, but you know, they're 3 guards. You can't have just 3 guards then KD and Kyrie out there, because if KD's your big man, yeah, I could see why you would get swept at that point. But what the Nets really need to work on this offseason is getting decent shooters and decent defenders at small forward height. So 6'7", 6'8", stuff like that. I know that's a tall task because we just made the playoffs, so we're not going to be in the draft this year, I don't think. And there aren't a lot of good free agents out there, but we got to try something. We can't just have a guards lineup, KD at the 5, and then just think we're going to make it our way. Because KD is not that good of an interior defender. You would think that he is because he's so tall and he has that length, but he doesn't put in the effort like that. The fact that people are saying Kyrie Irving, the fact that they're saying that he was our best defender this series when maybe it was Bruce Brown, I don't know. Bruce Brown was looking like the best player for the Nets in general this series, so I don't know. Even if you don't trust a Bruce Brown or a Blake Griffin or whatever with shooting that shot in a playoff series, they're in the playoffs for a reason. You have to look at, you can't just rely on KD and Kyrie all the time. Have you ever heard of X Factors? You gotta trust your bench. They helped you get there just as much as the stars did. This team was really just built for the super team of James Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant. And when those 3 broke up, the Nets didn't really have a viable substitute to just deal with the dynamic duo of Durant and Irving. So that's also another reason why I feel like they just fell apart this series. Who didn't get any playing time this series that I'm upset that they didn't? LaMarcus Aldridge. Bro, he's like the perfect throw-in guy for this type of series because they were too busy doubling KD and Kyrie. So you need somebody that's not just Bruce Brown running to the middle, throwing up either a lob or just a floater. Boston can easily counter that. You can have a guy like LaMarcus over there in the mid-range backing down dudes, throwing up mid-range shots or in the post hooks. He could do a whole lot of stuff. He could do mid-range, he could do a lot of post shots. You have so much versatility with a guy like LaMarcus Aldridge. And they just didn't play him the whole series. And I'm looking at it, he wasn't hurt. In fact, they said something about he was out of the rotation in April. I'm like, oh, okay. What about the playoffs? Like, he's proven to be a playoff player as well. So I don't understand why they didn't play LaMarcus Aldridge and help give the Nets a little bit of life, a little bit more life on the offensive side. I know he's not that great of a defender, but he's a big body you can throw down there. He would have been decent for this series, in my opinion. Can we please talk about the coaching for the Brooklyn Nets? Because if his name was Mike Thomas, or better yet, if his name was Frank Vogel, he would have been fired immediately. But the fact that we have to draw this out, the fact that probably what the Nets are gonna do is just make Steve Nash bow out on his own term instead of firing him outright, because he's this Hall of Famer that played in the NBA, and it might be a bad look for them in the future when Steve Nash does retire as a head coach or whatever. Nobody wants to play there because the Nets are gonna be the first team to ever get rid of a former NBA Hall of Famer type player that wanted to coach for them. So I'm sure for optics and reputation, they're not gonna fire him, but they absolutely should. He didn't make any type of adjustment in game or between the games. It was the same thing over and over. What type of coach? He's a first-year coach. I've seen first-year coaches do better. And the only reason why he's not getting dragged by the media, why he's not getting dragged by Brooklyn itself, the reason why even the players are defending him is because his name is Steve Nash, and that's it. The way the Boston Nets are the only team this year to get swept. The Raptors found a way to force a Game 6. The Luka-less Mavericks for about, I want to say 2 to 3, maybe 4 games, found a way to force a Game 6 against the Jazz. The New Orleans Mardi Gras Pelicans found a way to force a Game 6. The Nuggets found a way to force a Game 5. Like, all these teams, the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Timberwolves, that's tied right now, I think. Or the Timberwolves are up. Either way, the Timberwolves are finding a way to make that series interesting. Even though I knew it was going to be interesting, the fact that the Nets are the only team, that has to be some sort of NBA record, to be the only team in the playoffs to get swept in the first round. And don't get me started on Ben Simmons, especially when he's wearing number 10. Like, bro, you do not have the Omnitrix. You are not about to go forearms on a team gangsta. Stop it. Don't ruin my childhood with this real life reboot. Get a new jersey number and get in the game, for the love of God.